pro-liberty organization on America's college campuses. With more than 600 YAL chapters and 204,000 youth activists nationwide, YAL seeks to identify, educate, train, and mobilize young people committed to winning on principle. Thank you. On this campus, our organization has been heavily involved in sparking discussion whether or not the initial actions can be called productive. I will give you your time to speak later. Thank you. Whether or not the initial actions can be called productive, the reactions have always been. Students on this campus deserve the opportunity to discuss important issues without fear of being silenced or shouted down. It is for this reason we bring a provocative man like Milo Yiannopoulos to this campus. It is important to note that YAL does not endorse what Milo says necessarily, nor do we endorse any particular political candidate for office. What we do endorse is his right to speak freely on all issues. Even if he does, thank you. Even if he does think libertarians are obsessed with weed and hacking. It's a quote. As a computer science major, I am of course offended by this statement. I'm only obsessed with one of those things. It's the weed. Now a little on Milo. For the few of you who do not know who this fabulous man is, Milo is notorious in the online sphere. From his participation in the journalist mailing list leaks as a part of Gamergate, to his enthusiastic support of Daddy Donald Trump, Milo dances between the line of entertainer and academic. Milo is currently the technology editor at Breitbart, a conservative news and opinions website. Today we will hear Milo talk about why he believes such a powerfully provocative statement like feminism is cancer is accurate. In Milo's own words, "Don't worry, darlings, chemo is on the way." Without further ado, please join me in welcoming the most fabulous supervillain on the internet himself, Milo Yiannopoulos.
I was just telling... Man. Just telling the guys that couldn't get in, finally, I'm entering a venue. It's been very disappointing at previous I've had a crazy bitch. Well, I was saying this, all these, and I told them, maybe because I fucked all their brothers, I don't know. But I have no, now, I flew on Southwest today. This. Somebody else booked it, but I think I might be allergic to pork because I've got a really... I got off the airplane with perhaps the worst sore throat I've ever had, so I'm going to need a little emotional support today from you guys. And I'm also going to need a little inspiration, so I'd like to welcome to the stage a man very special to many of us, the next President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Now, I like to score my audiences out of 10. If you're performing well and you're pleasing me and you get a 10, then I'll stick around and say hi to everybody at the end. So far, you're at a 9.5, so I'm happy. You're doing good. Now, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about feminism. It is cancer. I'm going to tell you why. I've also lost my glasses. I think they must have evaporated on the airplane or something, so you have to forgive me for squinting a little bit. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Great reception. Clearly a lovely school. I look forward to partying with some of you later and having sex with some of you later. The front row looks very white. And I did ask them, I'm quite a firm believer in affirmative action, especially in the bedroom. So, if you want to give up your seat for a person of color, you should feel free to. Make my life just that little bit more pleasant. All right. We're going to be talking about some serious subjects today, actually. We're going to be talking about things like the wage gap. We're even going to be talking about things like rape, which are very serious subjects and very tragic things to talk about. But what I want to do is, and I haven't given a really serious lecture for a while because I come in and there's disruption and protests, and I manage to get a few jokes off, but I don't manage to really give a conventional lecture. So I'm going to try to get through a little bit today and not bore you too much until my throat gives out, and then we'll get into the Q&A. What I want to try to demonstrate to you today, just in bite-sized portions, is how almost everything that you were told by the progressive left, almost everything you were told by feminism is a lie. It is a lie. It's true. I don't like fibbers. Fibbers get spanked bottoms. Wait, that doesn't work. That's more of a reward, isn't it? Yeah. My parents used to threaten me with a smack bottom all the time. I think that's where I went wrong. I used to say to my mother when my parents divorced, if your new husband knew how much I enjoyed it, he wouldn't hit me so much. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, Mom. It's important to have strong male role models. All right. All right. Okay. I'm gonna try and get through a little bit of seriousness, and then we'll get to the Q&A, which I know everybody comes from. This campus is, I suppose, gets a 5 or a 6 out of 10 on the Progressive Hatefulness Index. But you're doing some good things. For instance, you've invited me, which is a step in the right direction to recovery. If you are an addict or if you are a sick person, the first thing is admitting you have a problem. And the second thing is trying to do something about it. So you have started that process this evening, for which you should congratulate yourselves. And it's also true that this college has at least one of quite a rare thing, which is somebody being punished for a rape hoax. It happened in 2013. A UCSB student was found guilty and sentenced for a rape hoax. It'd be nice if it happened a little more often, maybe at the University of Virginia, for example, where Rolling Stone staged their stunt, or Columbia, where mattress girl Emma Solkowitz pretended to have been assaulted to get attention and sympathy and money, it seems. She has an art show. This woman who lied about rape was rewarded by the media, by the progressive media, with plaudits, and now she has an art show in Los Angeles. I didn't go. Now, of course, there are rapes at UCSB. It does happen. And where it happens, even one is too many. But in 2014, there were 12. This is a campus of 20,000 people. Now, I try to pull the statistics wherever I go for colleges to try desperately to discover a single university in the United States that comes anywhere close to the 1 in 4 statistic that we're constantly being told. The statistic that's made its way all the way up to the White House with Obama repeating it. And I can't. And feminists don't seem to want to correct their statistics, which leaves me in a quandary, because I don't know whether they want men to rape more, so they've got more to complain about, so they can hang on to their ridiculous, fallacious statistics, or whether they would prefer to rediscover a commitment to truth, accuracy, and evidence-based thinking. I don't know. Perhaps the feminists would like to tell me if you would like more marauding rapists on campus, or you'd like to start telling the truth. I don't know which it is. Those 12 are 12 too many, but it is only 12 on a campus of 20,000, and it's worth remembering that, and I say this very often, and many of you will have heard this before, the 1 in 3, 4, 5, whichever it is this week, in 2 years it's going to be 15 women in 2. I mean, if American campuses were such hotbeds of rape, I'd spend even more time on them. I'm kidding. Oh, behave! Don't you know where you are? It's going to be a very long evening if that was too much for you. No, I'm just teasing. But it's a very long way away. The reality is a very long way away from what is claimed by feminism. And I want to just run through a few quick examples of this, because the purpose of modern feminism, the purpose of this intersectional third wave lunacy, appears to be little more than hating on men. It is a movement characterized by its misandry, its lesbianism, facial piercings, blue hair, and many, many extra pounds. I have been losing weight recently. I think as my politics get sounder and as I get even more fabulous, my waistline seems to shrink. I'm not there yet, but I lost 35 pounds in 3 months, which is a lot. Can't imagine I was that fat, right? That's good. If only feminists applied themselves with the same dedication to losing weight that they do to lying, they might have happier lives. Rush Limbaugh used to say, and he's right about this, that feminism is the way that ugly women get an entrance into public life. This is how they enter the mainstream. They become feminists. We have our first idiot of the evening. I've never met an attractive feminist, although I'm sure there must be some. There are probably some good-looking feminists. The one thing there aren't any of is truthful feminists. Let's start with the gender wage gap. Feminists say that women are paid 77% or so on the dollar. Actually, the wage gap's really only 6 to 7%. Now, you say, but it's still a wage gap. You've never admitted that on stage before. And indeed, I haven't. It depends whose statistics you believe, but basically, you probably know this by now. If you take all the money that men earn and all the money that women earn, and you do a simple, kind of babyish, I call it feminist arithmetic, you know? It's a sort of oversimplistic mathematics that you can only do if you're an art student. You know, it's the sort of thing that you can only really take seriously if the last time you owned a calculator was 1997 and it came free in a lunchbox. If you've never stepped into a science lab, you have no understanding of statistics or of variables, then sure, you might believe the wage gap, but no serious economist does. And the reason you shouldn't either is that it doesn't take into account essential differences between men and women, essential differences that feminists, because they are illiterate liars, tend to deny. Women make different life choices. They often choose subjects that don't lead to such high-paying jobs. Christina Hoff Sommers, a good friend of mine, who will be known to many of you as Based Mom, likes to say that if women want to improve the wage gap, such as it is, they should change their majors to engineering from feminist dance therapy. Now, I'm not sure what feminist dance therapy is or if it exists. I'm sure deep in the recesses of your darkest, most feverish imagination, you could conjure up an image of 3 hippos falling in synchronicity. I don't know what it would look like. I know they'd have to structurally reinforce the floor. I should stop it. I came to give a very serious talk today, and I just can't help myself. All right, I will stop, I promise. Oh, the hair, the blue hair. Did you see those? I posted a picture. You know, this is what a DePaul feminist looked like. I should talk to you a little bit about DePaul because it was fun. There was this girl who had like a bowl cut, you know, like a pudding bowl cut, like they used to give monks. You know, I'm a Catholic, and you know, rich older men in dresses, what's not to love? I'm a Catholic, and we have not, you know, normally our fashion choices are okay. I wasn't completely convinced by those red slippers that the last Pope used to wear, although I do like Berettas. But this pudding bowl cut they used to give monks was never fashionable anywhere. And she had, this is the most amazing thing, I've never seen this, sorry, my voice is going. I've never seen this before. She had her eyebrows dyed the same lurid green as her hair. Does anyone here, do you have any biologists in the room? Anybody studying biology? Not many. Okay, never mind. Does anyone know what aposematism is? Yeah, you do. Aposematism is a phenomenon in the natural world where dangerous animals tend to be brightly colored. It's true. It's true. Hence poisonous tree frogs in a variety of oranges and reds and blues. Tigers, you know, yellow, I suppose they have a bit of camouflage. It's a bad example, isn't it? No. It tends to be poisonous animals. It tends to be animals that you don't want to go anywhere near, that are brightly colored. It's sort of nature's way of giving you notice. Well, feminists have cottoned onto this, and to their credit, have decided that Mother Nature did. It's the only bit of science they know. But they're quite firm on this point. They've cottoned onto this, and they've decided to do us all a favor by giving us all a warning signal. And the warning signal is this red and purple and green hair that they all seem to wear. And so anyway, it's called aposematism. You should look it up. It's fascinating. Anyway, so this girl had like the same lurid blue eyebrows as her hair and this pudding basin cut. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but my God, if they're gonna tell us lies, at least look good while you're doing it. You know, I don't mind being lied to by somebody hot. You know, yeah, of course I love you, baby. I love you, baby. I'll take it, you know? You know, if you're a woman in the audience and you're here because you're open-minded, congratulations, most in your generation aren't, and you're thinking, well, what's wrong with feminism and the modern feminism? I mean, maybe there's something in it. Let me just tell you, going to a feminist to ask, you know, how you should relate to men and how you should look and how you should behave, it's a bit like asking Hitler to put himself in charge of the Museum of Jewish Antiquity. Gender studies, do you have a gender studies department here? Yeah, everywhere does. Oh, God. Well, you look at the faculty, you just look at the list, you know, on the website. Dyke, divorcee, dyke. Why is the most enlightened generation in history, millennials, the least bigoted, least racist, least homophobic, least horrible generation in the history of our species, allowing these dour lesbianic harpies to dictate how men and women should interact with one another? It's insane. It's like that friend who can never put down the drink, who always has to have another one, and you say, will you be my sponsor? Most women don't hate men. Most women would quite like a boyfriend one day. I'd quite like a boyfriend one day. It's about all I have in common with them. Because I have a male brain capable of reason. No, I'm kidding. Just talking about feminists, just for feminists. Anyway, the wage gap thing, you know, men and women make different choices, and of course there's biology. Women have babies. There are all sorts of things that narrow this gap down to, depending on who you believe, between 2 and 7%. But then you have to factor other things in, which I think are relevant. For instance, do you know that men pay way more into the tax system and take far less out because they die sooner? And yes, they don't have babies, but they also get sick less. Do you know that 97% of workplace fatalities are male? One of the reasons that some men get paid more than some women is hazard pay, because we do all the difficult, dangerous job. Well, I don't. I get carried in on gold litters and crack jokes. But real men, you guys, do all of the difficult, dangerous jobs. This is some of the reason why it's not all it's cracked up to be, you know? Now, feminists say that women are forced into low-paying jobs. It's difficult to support that claim. Let's think about where in the world women might be compelled to do things they don't want to do. You might come up with the Islamic world. You won't hear feminists or progressives talk very much about that because it's difficult and they just don't want to get involved. And it's, you know, oh God, who's more privileged, the Muslims or the blacks or the women or the trannies? I don't know. Oh my God, what do I do? Oh, you can see the contortions of horror on their faces. You know, occasionally there'll be in a TV debate and somebody will use that old line, well, you don't say anything about the Muslims, and they're kind of like, because I can't. Because they're cowards and they're stupid and they haven't, well, even they haven't worked out the hierarchy of oppression. How the fuck are we supposed to know? Anyway, there are places in the world where women are oppressed. There are places in the world where women are second-class citizens. America is not one of them. I say this as a Brit who comes from Londonistan. And I mean, as a relatively strict homosexual, I don't disagree in principle with women not driving, thank God, and being covered up by sheets. But I'm relatively sure that most men and most women aren't with me on that. And I'm kidding, I don't mean it. In America, the statistics simply don't reflect what feminists tell you. Feminists want to tell you that women are an oppressed class, that they suffer at the hands of a conspiracy theory, a mystical force known as the patriarchy. Well, if there is a patriarchy, it ain't doing a very fucking good job. Because it's the men that are dying in the workplace, not women. It is women who go to university more than men, in some cases in double-digit percentages, depending on the college you look at. They graduate with higher grades. A Cornell study in 2015 showed that women applying for STEM jobs, science, tech, and mathematics, good stuff, you know, engineering subjects, things that men are good at and they want to be involved in. Well, women have a 2-to-1 advantage on those subjects when they apply for academic jobs in STEM just for having breasts. Again, patriarchy, not doing a very good job. If you really believe all of this stuff, you have to go back to the numbers, you have to go back to the data, and not advocacy research, not this sort of, if you really try hard enough, you can come up with a figure of, you know, 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 women being assaulted on American campuses. But in order to do that, you have to widen the definition of sexual assault so broadly and use such atypical groups to make your argument that you render your statistics meaningless. What the Department of Justice suggests, the Bureau of Statistics, your gold standard Bureau of Statistics, is that the number's more like 1 in 52, and even that is sexual assault, not rape. Now, 1 in 52 is too many, assuming that they're all true, which of course many of them are not. Again, it's something that straight men are not allowed to say, but I can say it because I don't care. I don't want you, so I can say what I want. You know, it's very liberating. You should try being gay for a weekend just to see what you can get away with saying about women. It's great. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, you have to suck dick. It's not pleasant. I mean, you do it because you have to, you know? You do it because you want the car. No, I'm kidding. There was one time, 2008, it was a Bahraini sheikh. He didn't even get me a car, he bought me a fucking watch. I don't even like watches. Anyway, now feminists will tell you that men and women are exactly the same, which is, of course, I mean, we know from the evidence of our bodies that's ridiculous. And they'll say that men and women behave exactly the same in the workplace. Well, that again isn't quite true. When you look at the statistics, as it is my unhappy duty to do, you discover, and this is Bureau of Labor Statistics from 2014, women work 93% of the hours that men work. Well, if you're prepared to do the kind of babyish division that progressives want to do, just divide all the men stuff by all the women stuff, well, that 7% sounds familiar. Wasn't that 7% the actual wage gap? Well, maybe women should just work harder. I mean, it's not nice to say, but that's what the statistics suggest to us. Women actually take longer holidays. They take longer holidays even whether or not they have babies. They don't make as much money for their firms, and they don't do the same amount of overtime. If you want to get paid more, work as hard as we do. Now, feminists claim that women are strong and independent and don't need men. It's weird. Like, if women are so good at everything, how did they end up so oppressed for so long? If they're just as good at everything as we are, how did they get themselves into this horrible mess? They must be horribly incompetent. And I don't believe things like that, because that would be sexist. So I don't know. I mean, these are some of the things that feminists are going to try to make you believe. Feminists claim that women really want to lead companies too and take control of things. Well, this is not borne out by any data anywhere. What the data shows is that when women get into high managerial positions, and this is sometimes where the earnings gap, because it's not a wage gap, because a wage gap implies that somebody's paid more for the same work, which doesn't happen. That's not true. That's a lie. But the earnings gap, the total amount of money that men make and the total amount of money that women make, there is a difference there. Well, part of the difference there is women just don't want to put the hours in that it takes to become CEO. And who can blame them? I don't want to work as hard as those guys either. There's a reason that I do this instead of being a lawyer, because it's easy. You know, because I can spend 4 days a week on a beach and 3 days a week doing this and, show up and get adulation and attention and crack a few jokes and go back to my hotel and get drunk again. It's easy, My job's really nice. But I accept the consequences of that, which is that I'm not going to have a salary commensurate with a partner in a top law firm or an engineer. I mean, I got money anyway, so whatever. But in this job, my salary is not going to be as high as those people. I accept that. Why can't feminists? I'm skipping over some of these because they're so retarded and brain dead, it's a waste of my time to talk to you about them. Feminists say women can have it all. They can have a job and a family and all the rest of it. There's sort of constant attack on the family. It's very difficult to put numbers together for this, but it is my suggestion to you that the reason, and this is the one bit of this that we do know is true, the reason that women have been getting steadily unhappier since the Second World War, every 10 years they do these surveys, WAM and all the rest of it, they do surveys, women report themselves as more and more and more miserable as their condition in society gets better and better and better. Well, there are only two explanations for this. Either women are ungrateful, which I wouldn't like to suggest because that, again, would be sexist, or what's happening to women in society as a result of feminism isn't doing them any favors, and by extension, isn't doing anyone else any favors either. Encouraging women to have a job and have it all and do the kids, it's making women miserable. Now, this is the edgy bit of the talk where I'm going to sort of allude to traditional family values. This is my inner conservative coming out. Yeah, I know. There's probably a room full of libertarians, isn't it? Ooh. Everybody your generations is just weed Bitcoin hacking. You heard that already. And I just say, some things do tend to be true. And if you look at emerging economies, that they understand that the nuclear family, strong, healthy family units, a mom, a dad, and kids, is the cohesive glue that binds society together. It's what makes everything work. And when you break that apart, the people who suffer the most are the women. I like women, despite the jokes that I've been telling this evening. I like them very much. Where would gay men be without fag hags? I love women. They make the best accessories of all. No, I'm kidding. But I want everyone to be happy. I particularly want men to be happy because I think that men in this country, men in the West generally, have been so bullied and derided and ridiculed in the press for almost 3 decades that they deserve a little bit of restitution. But I also want women to be happy. And clearly what feminism is telling women is not making them happy. Now, it's not making them happy. And I'll give you one example, and then I'm actually going to wrap up because we're going to get to a lot of this in the Q&A. Fat. I want to talk about fat. It's one of my favorite subjects, but I want to talk seriously about it. I want to talk about body positivity. What are you whistling for? Are you in need of some body positivity? Does anyone know what this is? Anyone know what body positivity is? Yeah, some of you. Okay. Girls arrive to college in some cases, like we all do, like I did, like some men do too, vulnerable and disorientated and not quite sure of their way in the world. College is one of those places where you figure out your sexuality, you figure out how you're going to relate to women, to your friends, you figure out a lot about yourself. But and this is really the only, and I like to crack jokes, I like to have fun with this stuff, but this is the only thing I think that has really made me very angry in the research that I've done over the last year, the work that I've done into this subject, to try to sort of re-educate people about the lies that you're fed in the media, on television and newspapers. Body positivity is the only thing that actually makes me angry because I think it's cruel and sociopathic and mean for these hideous monsters in I meant the character, but they're also ugly. In gender studies departments to tell young girls that they can be as fat as they want, they can burp and fart and shit and turn themselves into Lena Dunham lookalikes. Always gets the same reaction, that. I'm convinced that Lena Dunham is like a conspiracy. Is there anybody that actually likes Lena Dunham? So why is she on the cover of everything, like Amy fucking Schumer? Nobody thinks Amy Schumer is funny. Nobody wants to fuck Amy Schumer. Nobody. Deport her, maybe. You'd get rid of her for me, wouldn't you, Daddy? Just Amy, Lena, I think I could die happy. Nobody wants to fuck these women, and nobody wants to listen to them, and nobody thinks they're funny, but we're instructed that if we don't find these people attractive, that we're somehow bigoted. No. It used to be the case that we had aspirational lifestyle models, that we put beautiful people in movies and beautiful people on the cover of magazines. That seems to be changing. Even Men's Health, which I, as people like to say, only read for the articles. People say that about porn, but people used to say that about Playboy. No, darling, I only get it for the articles. What's that one you have with the yearly special? What's it called? Sports Illustrated. Sports Illustrated. I've never even seen a copy of Sports Illustrated. I don't think it would hold much interest to me. But people say, I only read it for the article, sorry. Anyway, we're instructed to find certain people attractive. And this is all tied in with 30 years on campus of what's called body positivity, the idea that women can be healthy at any size. This is clearly counterfactual. You cannot be healthy at any size. The obesity, the complications that come from being fat and the emotional consequences that come from not looking your best are fucking obvious. And it's sort of, I've lived through it. I know I was getting to, honestly, I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone. This is a confession, and I can say it now because I'm not fat anymore. I'm really rich, so when I wear really expensive clothes, you sometimes can't tell how fat I am. I was a 37-inch waist. Do you know how big that is? That's a big waist. That's like a fat person. I mean, it's not, it's not gender studies department fat. But I'm doing my best. I've hired a trainer on the basis that I've worked out the only thing more obnoxious than me, the only thing that will annoy the left more than me, is me with a six-pack. So this is my project, and I'm going to use this. I'm wandering off topic, but I don't care. He does this, doesn't he? He just sort of rambles around, and somehow it's sort of mesmerizing, and by the end of it, you feel like you've learned everything and nothing. By the end of it, you're mesmerized, and you know this man has to be president, but you don't know why. No, so I've decided to do this, and this is because, and some of you will know this already, cultural appropriation, which is another bullshit invention of the left. Cultural appropriation is how art works. It's not racism, it's how art works. Now, Yale, which is the craziest school in America, was subjected to the indignity of a viral video last Halloween. You remember that? This girl screaming at one of her own professors, saying, you shouldn't work here, who hired you? Because his wife had dared to say that maybe mariachi costumes at Halloween weren't that big a deal. I have a friend who's a pop star, right? And he is very big in Mexico, and he got invited to like a Mexican-themed party. And he started getting white girls in America say, yeah, that's actually really problematic. You shouldn't be wearing like a sombrero and like eating tacos because it's actually like cultural appropriation. And he's like, Diego fucking invited me. They put the clothes on me. No, but I mean, this is a way that we come to celebrate and enjoy each other. It's actually the only bit of multiculturalism that's any good is you get the outfits and the food. It's the only bit that actually works. What? And the hot brown people, yes. Yeah. I'm sure that's what you said. That's what was in my head. And so anyway, the tempers are running high at Yale. People are worried. They're tentative about what's going to happen this Halloween. And faculty and students have got together. The student media has sort of agreed with this, and they said, look, we're going to be sensitive this year, and we're going to not do anything that's going to offend anyone. So, with my customary tact and delicacy, I have decided to give a lecture a few days before Halloween at Yale called Famous Cultural Appropriators from History, like Picasso and Mozart, you fucking idiots. And I will be giving this lecture in full Native American headdress. And you'll know if the training's going well, because if my body's up to it, I'll do the whole loincloth thing too. So we'll see. And it will be considered a success if my entrance is even 50% as fabulous as this was. But fact, let's wrap up the fact conversation. Men are visual animals. We like what we see. I like what I see right now particularly. We should chill. Nobody knows who I was looking at. But men are visual animals. And there are things about the sexes that are simply different. And there's no point lying about it. There's no point pretending otherwise. If you tell young girls that they can get fat, that they cannot look after their bodies, they can get unhealthy, they can indulge themselves, they can spiral into self-destructive behaviors, and that not only is it okay, but other people have to celebrate it, or they're bigots, you are condemning those people, particularly those women, to a life of misery and loneliness. I find that appalling. I find it absolutely appalling. And it gets to the heart of social justice in general, which is a movement populated by miserable people trying to make everybody else as unhappy as they are. In the 90s, we had Marilyn Manson, and we had 9 Inch Nails. We knew how to get it out of our systems. We just get a razor blade, Well, not me, obviously. If it were up to me, I would give them out. I would give them out at high schools, because if you don't let kids cut themselves, they turn into social justice warriors. I'm just saying. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Obviously, I'm joking. Come on. I said it was going to be a long night. I'm nearly done, I promise. I find it so upsetting that we have allowed, as a society, the very worst qualified people to lecture us about the things that matter most. We have allowed feminists, which is a modern, and I like to make jokes about it, but seriously, we can be hugely proud of what feminism's done, by the way. Women now have equal access to institutions, to education, and to the workplace. They don't have that in most of the world, and it's amazing that we have it here. And women have that, by the way, as a function, as a product of Western capitalist democracy, which is the only system that has awarded women these rights en masse. It's the only, and it's not women that came demanding these things and that made it work. It's men who gave women those rights because they realized it was the right thing to do. But it's my view that feminism has run its course, that it is now more concerned with man-hating, that it is populated by angry lesbians, and I make jokes about it, but it really is fucking true. They're all fucking dykes. Just look at your own gender studies department. I told you, you can do it. You can do it. One of two. Either divorced or carpet bunchers. And when they're not booking saga holiday cruises, or attacking each other with knitting needles, or trying to get the stench of cat piss out of cardigans. I should really grow up. I don't know why they let me do this. They're telling men that there's something wrong with you because you're men. They're telling you that there's this thing called toxic masculinity. Well, there isn't. Being a man is great, and you should be happy and proud of it. There's nothing wrong with being a boy. And I think if we continue down this path of allowing the worst qualified people to lecture us on the things that matter most, we're going to get ourselves into a pickle. My Dangerous Faggot Tour is the first wave of the fight back against this movement. Thank you very much for having me. I invite your questions. Thank you very much. Thank you. I know Daddy won't have any of this shit. Mexico! My shortlist, my shortlist way before you get to illegal immigrants. Vapors. Cyclists. Bernie supporters. Anyone in cargo shorts. Everyone's looking around now. And yes, feminists. Questions, please. Go ahead. I don't know how this is supposed to work. I think I just.
Yeah, come on up.
You guys can start forming a line.
What? Come on up if you have a question.
I think maybe if you form a line, that's going to be a sensible
If you have a question, walk up.
Hi, my name's Tony.
Hi.
I noticed a few things in your speech that were somewhat questionable.
Go ahead.
You mentioned fitness a lot.
Sorry, say again?
You mentioned fitness a lot.
Fitness?
Yeah, you mentioned that a lot. I believe this was a feminist speech, not a fitness talk. And I was actually the president of the fitness club at my CC before I transferred here. And so I know one or two things about fitness. And I also noticed that in your speech...
Do you have a question?
So,
this is not an opportunity for you to make a speech.
Okay, true. I would like to... I don't want to change your opinion. But your sources, you never mentioned them, and I never.
Do you have a question, though?
What's your question,
What are your
sir?
sources for all these statistics that I heard one or two, which were somewhat questionable?
I didn't
sources.
hear the question.
What are your sources?
What is your sources for these statistics?
Which statistic?
Oh, like your 1 and 4, the one that questioned the. You mentioned like 2 or 3 in the beginning. After all the fallacies.
Okay,
that
if you don't know which claim that you don't agree with, then I can't provide you a source for it. Why don't you go 3 back in the line, just 3 places, and try to remember what happened 20 minutes ago. And I'll do my best to accommodate you, okay? Next question,
Thank you,
please.
sir.
Next question, thanks.
Oh, from this.
Oh, he's going away. No, come and join the queue then, for fuck's sake. All right, thanks so much. Next question, please.
It's gotta come from this side. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Hi.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I was just wondering because since our professors are all just telling us lies and the media is all telling us lies,
They are.
where on earth are we supposed to educate ourselves and how are we supposed to enrich ourselves?
Well, this is the place in which I'll get fired if I don't plug my own outlet. Speaking of plugging my own out, no. No, stop it. It's lowest common denominator. You're just encouraging me. It's so easy. No. I would encourage you, however, to visit breitbart.com/Milo, which is everything that's by and about me, which is my favorite place on the internet. Thank you, Angel. No, I would say, look, there are plenty of people out there who are doing this. Now, a word about the men's rights movement. A hushed silence descends on the room. I don't particularly like the way they speak about women sometimes, although I think if you tell men to speak to women just like you speak to each other, they're going to start. And taunting is how men bond. Women say they want this, they very often actually don't. And that's okay, but I don't sometimes like the way they speak about women. I do think that some of these guys have some issues to work out. But most of what they say is right. So if you did want to wade through some occasionally fruity language, you will find on a lot of the men's rights subreddits and forums some very compelling data. You should also look at academics who very bravely buck the trend and have been ostracized from academia as a result, like Christina Hoff Sommers, whose Factual Feminist series is probably the best bang for buck that you're likely to get on the internet. It is the best, use of 3 or 4 minutes that you could possibly spend if you want to know why most of the things you're being told are nonsense. You can also go, I'm going to tweet afterwards, I found this amazing site recently, and I use it for a lot of my speeches, and it's basically the best resource you'll ever find in your life. It's called Mr. Archivist. And this guy is collected, he's got like 30 studies that completely blow these crazy feminist claims out of the water, more than you can possibly ever get through in an environment like this. So I'll tweet it after this, and you should look that up. You should also reach out to journalists that you trust and that you admire, people that you enjoy, and ask them to write about the subjects you care about. Most of the stuff that I've written that people have enjoyed the most have come about because people have emailed me and said, hey dude, I want to know what you think about this. And I'll go away and sit down with my researchers and talk through it all and work out what I do think about it. And what I think about it is driven by the data, by information. And go back to the gold standard studies and the government data, which is much more reliable. It's about the only thing the government does do well. Go back to the government data, don't listen to the advocacy studies, and ask the people that you respect and admire to tell you what they think about things or to point you in the direction of particular sources or studies. I think if you're talking about feminism in particular, Christina Hoff Sommers is great. If you want any other subjects, you probably know some people already, and feel free to email me and I'll help as much as I can. Most journalists hate their own readers, and they close comment sections and call them trolls and harassers and abusers and all manner of other names. I love my readers because my readers are the best people in the world. They are fun-loving, mischievous, Trump-loving shitlords, and I love all of them. Wonderful. Which is why my door is always open. I can't always promise to respond to every one of the thousands of things that come through my inbox every day, but what I do have some help sifting through all of this, and if something is asked for more than 4 or 5 times, then I always make sure I at least tweet in a directive link somewhere or write something about it. Go ahead.
Hello. So basically, I noticed a pattern through your talk where you would, instead of, before you ever got to saying anything substantive about feminism, you'd undermine your own argument by making the easiest possible digs on people who call themselves feminists. Mm-hmm. And I think you have this your whole big thing is your right to talk about it, and I value that completely. But instead of actually talking about it, you made easy jokes.
I
So my question.
I understand the point you're making.
So why is that your methodology?
Yeah, I understand the point you're making. I think if people don't want to be called ridiculous, they should stop being ridiculous. And I think it's just as important to point out the lunacy and craziness of people who force feed us these lies as it is to debunk the lies themselves. Because it's only really by understanding where these people come from that we can understand why they're lying to us. And as I tried to explain in my wrap-up, it's very clear that a lot of social justice, whether it is feminism or progressivism in general, or, yes, Black Lives Matter, comes from people who are very unhappy and miserable with their own circumstances, their own stations in life. When you understand that, you understand a lot more about why they behave as they do. My purpose is not to be the nicest, friendliest, most family-friendly speaker on campus. There are plenty of others for that. Some people enjoy the fat jokes. Most of the room, I'm guessing, from the reaction. If your tastes are more highbrow, you could go to other talks. Thank you for the question. Oh, yes, this one. I keep forgetting. Hello. Stop it. Don't be mean until we know he's a progressive. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. Yes. Yes, you should be. You should be. What happened... What happened at DePaul this week was shameful for the university, and it's why I took huge pleasure in drawing attention to the administration, which I paid for some of that security, because these cunts, they throw charges on the students right at the last minute as a way of trying to get it cancelled. They'll say, oh yeah, we've decided you need 15 security guards, and that's going to cost another $2,000. And you've got these poor college Republicans who are like, what? We've invited Milo, and now we go... And so in the end, I had to put my hand in my own back pocket for $890, the last bit of it. And the security that I paid for there to protect me did nothing when a protester leapt to the stage, threatened to punch me, and somebody else snatched the mic out of somebody else's hand. DePaul University administrators should be ashamed of themselves. I've taken a leaf out of Daddy's book and branded the administrator primarily responsible for this lying Lindsay. I have an email from Lying Lindsay saying there's this three-tier system, right? Like if Milo says if the moderator says please sit down, and then somebody else says please sit down, and then I say please sit down, then they get escorted out by security. They get removed from the premises. So we have an email from her, explaining that I paid for that service, and it did not happen. This room and this school has acquitted itself beautifully. The people who have spoken so far who do not agree with what I have to say have, if they haven't been competent, at least been polite. And so yes, you should indeed be proud. Thank you very much.
Sorry. So my question was on the theme of.
Oh, I didn't wait for the question. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, I loved your answer. My question was, with all of this vitriol and disrespect and hate that you get, I wanted to ask what drives you, what gives you inspiration for what you do.
Well, I always thought journalism was about sticking up for people who were lied about and lied to. I thought journalism was about sticking up for groups who were under the cosh of the establishment. Well, the establishment today is progressive. They own the newspapers, they own academia, they own the entertainment industry. Feminist lies have become accepted parts of the canon of public knowledge, like the wage gap, campus rape culture, all this kind of stuff. Seems to me very obvious that young men, and in particular, because progressives are all racists, young white men are in need of a bit of help. And if they, for obvious reasons, because it is so socially disadvantageous and professionally perilous to stand up and say, hang on a minute, what about this study? I understand why men don't do it. I have a rhino hide, and I am uninterested in women sexually. I quite enjoy winding people up. So I thought I'd take on the mantle. For me, and I don't mean this to sound too earnest, as fond as I am of congratulating myself, I try to do it in humor rather than in seriousness. But what I identified, I think this is true, is that there is a group of people, the straight white males of progressive mythology.
What I want to know is, do you have anything to say about the fact that it seems like your supporters, and in general the alt-right movement, seems to have a high degree of what I would say schlubby, low testosterone males? And what do you think that says about the obsession with Donald Trump as an alpha male?
Yes.
Sorry, I wasn't done with my question. Mr. Yiannopoulos, I wasn't done with my question, and as you're fond of pointing out, it's rude to shout people down and an infringement of their free speech to shout people down.
I think I understand the general tenor and direction of the question. This is a perfect example of the sort of ugly... This is a perfect example of the sort of ugly sociopathy that has given rise to the sexodus, that has given rise to young men checking out of relationships, that has given rise to female unhappiness as they discover that more men are deciding that women just aren't worth the hassle. This kind of ugly, nasty, cruel generalization about men who have done nothing to deserve it is precisely, I'm answering your question, sir. You don't get to respond again. The difference is when I call feminists fat, they are. When you call the room virgins, unlikely. As with all things, even my mockery is evidence-based. Sometimes young men can't, and as a Christian, I think it's important that the strong protect the weak. And in many cases, the young men you're describing do have problems. They sometimes aren't the most socially fluent. They sometimes aren't the most sexually fluent. Fuck you for putting those people down. Next question, please.
Hi, Milo. Thanks for coming. I just wanted to know...
Yeah, he can go over the fucking wall.
Hi, Milo. Thanks for coming. I just wanted to know if you're the chemo, what's the cure? And
Sorry, say again?
I just wanted to know if you're the chemo, what's the cure? And by extension...
I'm so sorry, I can't understand you.
If you're the chemo, what's the cure? And for extension, what do you think of Sargon of Akkad's petition to ban social justice from colleges?
I can't really understand what he's saying. Could you try to enunciate a little more?
If he's the chemo, what's the cure?
Oh, I see. Right, if I'm the chemo, if feminism is cancer and I'm the chemo, then what is the cure? Well, I was rescued by an audience member who had a far wittier riposte than I did, so thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I don't know if Donald Trump will solve the problem entirely. However, and I'll briefly give you the libertarian case for Trump in answer to the question. You might think Trump has some crazy positions. You might think that his positions are sometimes inconsistent besides the trade and immigration. You might even be right about that, but there's an effect that Donald Trump is having on discourse in this country, which I think every libertarian simply has to get behind, and I think conservatives ought to as well, which is he is making the unsayable sayable, and that does not mean his primary effect is giving succor and cover to the ugly underbellies of human life and giving license to racists to be racist. He's not a racist person, but what he's enabling, I think, and certainly I feel this effect when I read media coverage, and when I go to university colleges, is he's emboldening people to go a little further than they would have otherwise. And that's exactly what I try to do. Because when people come to college and they'll say, well, I don't agree with Milo, but, or he's a bit of a dick, but, this is all too much. However, I did look up that thing he said, and it does seem to be right. That's my purpose, and I think that's his purpose, at least in free speech terms too. And if Donald Trump can widen what we call the Overton window, if he can make it okay to say facts again, because very often these days it isn't. Very often you'll get in trouble for what we call on the internet hate facts. Very often you'll get in trouble for questioning the, what is, as a sort of living internet comment section. I mean that as a compliment. Really. And he will have performed his function as shitlord in chief. And I think that the internet's choice for president. And I think actually if the world looked a little bit more like a comment section and a little bit less like Gawker, it wouldn't be so bad. All right, thank you.
Actually, can I just?
Yeah, go ahead.
You couldn't hear it last time, but what do you think about Sargon of Akkad's petition to ban social
You're going to have to
justice?
come up here because I can't hear.
What do you think of a petition to ban social justice, is what he asked.
Well, I don't really believe in banning anything. I don't believe in banning anything. Except e-cigarettes. That's the only thing. I'm very relaxed about a ban on vapes. I don't really believe in banning anything, so I like the spirit of the petition. I would prefer to beat them with humor and facts, which I think we're doing, by the way. I think we're winning. I think we are. And I'll just make one point. I want racists to be heard. And this is the absolute, outer limit of free speech. I want the worst people in the world to have platforms. Why? Because sunlight is the best disinfectant. And the more you hear from these people, the more you realize what they're really like. In all things, at all times, in all circumstances, and in all forums, more speech is always better than less. And I'll give you a little example, which is my favorite example, which probably everyone in the room has heard already, but it's worth repeating, which is that Nick Griffin, who is a leader of the BNP, a racist party in England, in Britain, was enjoying some quite chilling and disturbing success in Britain. He was preying on people's understandable anxieties about immigration, the changing character of their communities. The little seat they had when the public got to see what this man was like. That's what I want. Because if we're going to have an open marketplace of ideas, if we're going to let everybody have access to the best that has been thought and read and spoken, if we're going to let people debate and discuss things in an open, free exchange of ideas, then nothing can be off limits. And that's the most important thing that you should take away from here today. And nothing can be off limits. Bad people, sexists, racists, misogynists, homophobes, the real ones, not when the left calls you that, but the real ones, betray themselves. They reveal themselves very quickly. Very quickly you start to see there's a difference between people who really hold toxic and ugly and disgusting opinions and the rest of us who occasionally like to crack a joke. Actually, the only joke that I ever got taken out of a column, some of you all know this, I think. There was an article in the Daily Beast, and it said, if you have whites only on your Grindr profile, it's racist. So I thought we just got past policing gay sexuality, but thank you, the progressive left. Let's start calling men names again. So I wrote a column saying, well, my Grindr profile is blacks only. Is that racist? Except, of course, I don't say blacks only. I'll use a different formulation so as not to offend people because I'm a nice person. I'll say, don't contact me if you're less than 7 inches or if you know who your dad is. It's the only joke I ever had cut from a column. Even Breitbart has its limits. But you see, it's not a very kind thing to say, but it is, of course, borne out by the statistics. No, I mean, look, just speaking plainly about it, these things don't do any harm, and it's important that we can all laugh about things, because if we can't laugh about things, we kill each other over them, like they do in the Middle East. Thanks. Hello.
Hi, thanks for listening. Well, first, I just wanted to say that upon discovering you 2 weeks ago, I stopped being ashamed of my opinions and my conservative values, so thank you. I appreciate you for that. What is a productive way to heal that in society?
Yeah, so what's your question? So what I've said in the past is that race is a very toxic and tragic issue in this country. It is not like the women problem. women in this country, in fact, particularly white middle-class women, are the most privileged class ever to have existed in the history of our species. These girls really do have it all, with the possible exception of gays. I don't know. Do we have it better? I don't know. Maybe. Whatever. What I have said in the past is that there is one group that I think still deserves something, and that's the black community in America. And there are huge problems in big cities in America that deserve some serious solutions and some real care and attention. I don't think Black Lives Matter is the answer, because it is a hysterical movement of half-wits funded by a senile old progressive lunatic called George Soros. It's funny, isn't it? They're sort of fighting for black rights. All they're really doing is, taking money from one rich white guy to disrupt the talk of another rich white guy. It's great. Well, that's why they're not making any headway on race relations. The only product of Black Lives Matter is black cities in flames, in ruins, black communities destroyed. It's clearly not the answer, but we do need one. I wonder whether, since black communities keep electing Democrats with the same results, and on the understanding that the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing and expecting a different outcome, they might like to try Republicans. They might like to try Republican governors and mayors. Certainly Rudy Giuliani, when he ran New York, saved thousands of black lives by policing it properly. This is a lovely girl at DePaul, as a member of the College Republicans in DePaul, who stood up and said, I believe in self-sufficiency and working hard and not being lazy grievance mongers like you guys. And the Black Lives Matter protesters called her a white supremacist. And I thought to myself, well, if you think that hard work and aspiration are white values, we all know who the racists in this room are. I think perhaps encouraging black communities, rather than to wallow in victimhood and grievance and looking for someone else to blame for their bad situation, to instead give them great schools and encourage them to go to Harvard, better their circumstances and become the best Americans they can, that might be a way of helping at least some of them. Thank you.
Hi, Milo.
Hi.
So how do you reconcile being a Roman Catholic and a homosexual? That's something that I've never really understood about you.
No, that's all right. So I normally kind of dodge the question by trotting out some anecdotes, which I will attempt to do again. No, I'm kidding. As Evelyn Waugh said, if you think I'm a bad Catholic, imagine how bad I'd be without God. Well, the Catholic, to ask this question, and I don't mean to attack you in the least bit, and I'm just trying to be completely honest with you. I think to ask that question requires a level of I won't say ignorance, a lack of, it perhaps suggests a lack of understanding about the Catholic Church and about homosexuality, both of those things. The fact is that, if you just look pragmatically speaking, the Catholic Church has probably protected and harbored more gay people in history than any other institution. It welcomed them into the priesthood when they were being murdered by the state. And this happened for, in some cases, centuries, in places like Ireland. The Catholic Church has always been somewhere that protected gays, even if it didn't always approve of what they got up to at night. But also, the Catholic Church is different from the Anglican strain of Christianity, not just because they're wrong, but also because Catholicism, I can't remember who said this, but people are Anglicans. They're Baptists or Methodists or whatever because they believe they're good people. Well, Catholics are Catholics because they know they're not. We have this thing called original sin. We go to church because we know we're not good. And I think for me at least, certainly living the lifestyle I do, that's a more honest approach to theology than other sorts of Christianity have to offer. So here's the thing: progressives will sometimes demand all manner of complex and weird acknowledgements for themselves. They want to be a gender queer, blah, 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 you can fill in cis, whatever. But what they can't understand is other people asking for the same acknowledgement that life is messy and complicated. and that sometimes things aren't fully recognized or realized or pulled together in your own mind. And sometimes it takes a lifetime of study, of prayer, of self. And I don't see why anybody else should either.
Like to push this idea that feminism is no more than thinking men and women are equal. So if you don't call yourself a feminist, you don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to say in response to that?
Well, certainly feminism used to be about equality when it was good. Now, of course, there are some hardliners who believe that it was never good because it's only ever been tearing women away from where they are happiest, most productive, and best suited. I don't quite subscribe to that view. But I think there was a time when the primary purpose of feminism, I think, feminism is the only movement that it has until recently with this sort of this cancerous male feminist thing, which is a very recent innovation, sort of a brain disease. It's only relatively recently that you've seen the emergence of male feminists, people with testosterone so low that the last time they had an erection was, well, actually, no, I'm not going to say that's true. It's true. It's too much even for me. You'll have to come up to me afterwards and ask what I was going to say. It's a relatively recent phenomenon. It's a movement that has always been populated almost exclusively by women, and it's no surprise that they've never been able to agree on a definition amongst themselves. I think what the best we can do is look at what most of them were doing. And for the majority of the history of feminism, most feminists have been asking for things that are eminently reasonable. They've been asking for the vote. They've been asking for equal pay. They've been asking for equal access into educational institutions. They've been asking for equality across the board. And while most feminists were asking for that, feminism was a thoroughly respectable thing. And if you were a woman and not a feminist, you were probably a bit weird. Unless you were a social conservative, in which case, that's perfectly reasonable too, and I have a lot of sympathies for women like that, because they do seem to be happier. But anyway, get married, have babies, it is better. I think if you look now at what happens with feminism, with these sort of conspiracy theories they peddle about the patriarchy, if you look at just the open, outright man-hatred, you start to see what most women have already seen. I mean, think of, and it's not just me saying this. Fewer than 1 in 5 American women describe themselves as a feminist, because they too, I think, have recognized, A, that feminism has achieved all the objectives that they need in their life, and B, that it has turned into an ugly, man-hating, sort of far-left crackpot movement. In England, where we are even more eminently sensible about these things, just 7% of women describe themselves as feminists, as one of the very few things that Europe gets right and America gets wrong, or at least that we're slightly better than you at. It ain't just me; it's women too. And you go to England, more than 9 in 10 women do not describe themselves as feminists. I think because they recognise that feminism has become something ugly. It's become something hateful. It's become something divorced from reason and from fact and from evidence. And if people can fight through my terrible jokes, I hope that's what they take away with them. It might be time to revisit some of the things you think you know.
Consequences to the free discourse of ideas, particularly on campuses, will be?
It's going to be a disaster. Title IX, which is already criminalized, effectively criminalized plenty of perfectly normal adolescent behaviors, and the speech codes and codes of conduct that are emerging on universities, which effectively punish boys for being boys, and provide the most absurdly low standards of proof it's possible to imagine for destroying people's reputations on the basis of what in many cases turn out to be hoaxes. I don't think that will improve under a democratic administration, put it that way. It will be worst under, who would be worse for this, Bernie or Hillary, for gender relations? Well, you want me to say Hillary, but I'm not sure. Because Bernie's so senile. I think he can be pushed into anything. I said on Greg Gutfeld, it's like a row between somebody who can't afford an iPhone and somebody who's too old to work out how it functions, but or something like that. I think I messed up my own joke. But I think worse would be Bernie, because I think his supporters, by and large, if you look at a Bernie crowd, you see some of the characteristic social justice costumes that we've alluded to this evening. And these are the people who believe the craziest stuff, and I think he would enable them. I'm more worried about race under Hillary Clinton than I am about gender. She's obviously a wacky feminist, but she's also, you know, a capitalist, and she's also a realist. And I think you should be more worried about what the bad things that will happen to black communities under Clinton than what will happen to men. I think if Sanders is elected, it will be a gender war. If Clinton is elected, it will be a race war. I'm not sure which I prefer. Neither. I prefer this. As for the free speech stuff, it's very obvious that Bernie Sanders buys entirely and totally and completely into bizarre theories about racism. You know, white people, you know, black people can't be racist. You know, if you're white, you've never known poverty. I mean, this is somebody who genuinely believes this. There are millions of people in this country growing up in trailer parks who are desperate for help into college, for instance. We haven't spoken about my scholarship fund, but some of you know about that already. You know, it's... Well, nobody can resist the truth wrapped in a good joke, but I also like in my life to annoy all of the worst people in the world at the same time as doing some good. So I set up a scholarship fund for young white boys trying to get into college because the data says that they really need the help. And it really annoys the left. I think Sanders buys into some of the most bizarre and toxic Black Lives Matter and feminist stuff. So I think he's going to be way worse for freedom of speech than Hillary. So I think on both counts, I'd rather have her by a whisker. But we do have a better option ahead of us. Thanks. Right.
Please keep the remaining questions brief as we are running out of time. Thank you.
How many more am I allowed to do?
We're going to do who's left in line.
Okay.
Hello again.
Hi.
Okay, so it was a bit of a line, so I got to do a bit of research. So
You see, this isn't fair, is it? Now
It's
you've
not-
gone away.
I-
You didn't
I
go
didn't
three
do
back.
my-
You went back for 20 minutes, and now you're going to try and do some fucking gotcha because you've got Google in front of you.
No.
Oh, good lord.
I never read about you, ignorant
All
me.
right, do your worst. Come on.
So in 2015, in an interview with Fusion, you said, "My natural disposition is a satirist and a comic." And then you followed up with, "I like to entertain and to please people." Now, being twice a college dropout, what gives you the credibility to criticize academic scholars and professors here at UCSB?
Well, I'm inviting you to draw attention. I, of course, in not finishing my degree at Cambridge, joined the ranks of dropout failures, such as Steve Jobs. Oh, I could go on. It's not even worth it, is it? I'm encouraging. Why am I not getting chocolate? I'll get my chocolate later. It's very thank you, Angel. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a bit warm and squished. just how I like it. I'll have it. Oh, you got a warm and squished one as well, did you? Oh, lovely. Okay. Well, we'll eat them. We'll eat them together afterwards when we're bonding after your imminent humiliation. No, I'm just kidding. You correctly quote me, because you have a smartphone, as saying that as at least one of my primary purposes is to entertain people. I think also, however, that if I can suggest to people different ways of thinking and can encourage them to question what they have been taught and told, that doesn't require a physics PhD. And I think that there are some obvious reasons why somebody in my position, you know, I am fairly social justice proof. It's not really possible to claim that I'm any kind of real bigot. It just doesn't stick because it's not true. It's so obviously not true. You can't really attach to me any of the labels the progressive left traditionally does. You can't dismiss me as a misogynist or a racist or a homophobe or whatever because it's just dumb. And it doesn't work. Also because I don't rely on anyone else for income, and because I don't have skin in the game of the gender war, you know? I don't care on the face of it, don't care particularly whether men and women are having fun together. I care out of a sense of compassion, I like to think. I care out of a sense of common humanity, but I don't have a dog in the fight. That gives me a somewhat unique position, in addition to my talent and good looks and charm and popularity and humility, which you don't pick up at university. I think it puts me in somewhat of a unique position to speak out for people who aren't able to speak out for themselves, which is all that I try to do. I certainly don't claim any credibility for myself. I allow other people to do that for me, and they seem to be doing it in their thousands. Next question.
Hello. Thank you for coming.
I thought he was going to get me then. He was away for ages. So I thought he was going to be like, yeah, you said in 2001, but then, alas not. We'll share a Snickers later. Bless you.
Well, first of all, thank you for coming here. What I want to know is, why exactly, being a citizen of Great Britain, did you decide to come all the way out here to these United States? I don't want to be dismissive, but the foundation of American thought was, don't fucking listen to British people. I mean...
So I didn't quite catch the end of that. I didn't catch that. I'm finding it very difficult to hear the people over here.
You said the foundation of American thought is don't fucking listen to British people. So what made you want to come to the U.S.?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You say that, but then there's Christopher Hitchens. And in fact, just be grateful. Be grateful this is not the 1800s and you have to listen to de Tocqueville, a fucking Frenchman. Because that's what you were doing then. You know, so you've at least graduated from a Frenchman to an Englishman, and I think America has a long history of being bailed out by Brits. But do carry on with your question. No, don't get me wrong, it's the best country in the world, but now and again you need us. Carry on.
All right. Well, just, yeah. Thanks.
Oh, we're done. Okay, thanks.
Hello? I know this was touched on a bit earlier, but since we're in this misandrist sort of minority supremacist environment right now, where being a normal white guy is a detriment.
Yes.
And obviously we're coming up to the centennial of the women's right to vote in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the golden age in between where we had a more egalitarian society? And in general, what do you think, you know, in your experience with your finger on the pulse and all this, what does a real egalitarian society look like with equality?
I quite like the 80s and 90s. I thought we were doing okay in the 80s and 90s. I thought people were happy and doing all right, and there were a few little things to fix, but everybody was pretty joyful. If you look at the culture, I think it's instructive. We have a very banal culture now, which I think reflects the limits of acceptable thought and speech in the public square. You're allowed to say so little as a journalist, as an academic. You're allowed to say so little as an artist, as a comedian, that we've sort of got the pop stars we deserve. We've got the art we deserve. We've got the books we deserve. I think when people were feeling better about themselves, you could see it in the culture. And I think that happened in the 70s. I think it happened especially in the 80s. And for me, the 90s is the pinnacle of pop culture. You know, everybody had money, everybody was happy, nobody hated each other. There wasn't, you know, racism was pretty much over. It was kind of a nice time to be alive. You know, Jurassic Park was great, really good. The Spice Girls, Shawshank Redemption, Goodfellas. It was fucking good time to be alive. So I mean, I think that if you were to really force me to do it, to sort of put a finger on where I'd like us to have stayed forever, it would probably be the optimism, unbridled and unashamed celebration of capitalism, and the general ebullience, and it seemed to me kind of brotherhood and friendliness and sort of general cultural exaltation of the 80s and the early 90s.
Hi, I was wondering if you can comment on the dynamic of bullying, which third wave feminism seems to have adopted as a tactic. It's something that I personally have been a target of, and you know, there's been incidents like the Matt Taylor shirt storm, the protests at your event, and even liberal academic second wave feminists like Laura Kipnis, you know, have been targeted for you know, saying things that are interpreted as being unorthodox. What can people do when they find themselves between the proverbial crosshairs? And to sum up, this is a little off topic, but how can I get hired to be one of your interns?
I've got enough already, apparently. So BuzzFeed tells me. How could anybody believe that? Good heavens, they're so stupid. They're so stupid. They call me up and say, we've got this story that you've got 44 interns. I'm like, yeah. Go on. And they're like, yeah, so you've got 44 people who like write your stuff for you. And I'm like, uh-huh. This is great. This makes me sound like such a fucking boss. 44? No. You can always write to me, and if you're sufficiently exciting and interesting in your email, then I might reply. Your question was about bullying. My general response to this is nothing bad happens when you turn around to these people and say, go fuck yourself. But of course, there are people in certain circumstances who do find it difficult to do that if they're in an educational institution or in the workplace where you can't turn around and tell your female supervisor that she is a disgusting, man-hating harridan and she needs to go back to Gloria Steinem and shoot herself. Much as you may want to. I think the best thing to do in all of these circumstances, and it's not the best answer really, it's not the answer that I would like to give you, which should be more upbeat and inspiring but less true. I think the answer I have to give you is keep your head down if you're at college, because what they want more than anything else, and the purpose of this public shaming stuff, is to damage your reputation and to make you unemployable and to ruin your life because you dared to step off ideological reservation. And they will do that. From time to time. I think their power to do it is lessening as they overuse the allegations and as people realize that this public shaming stuff is a little bit suspicious and there's normally more to the story. I think it's going to very quickly become difficult for them to do that anymore, and probably in the next couple of years. But in the meantime, the best revenge you can have on them, as I've said at previous talks, is to live well. What they want is to destroy your life because you have the wrong opinions, or because you have, in these days, the progressive left, if you're a straight white male, you have the wrong skin color, sexuality, and gender. They don't seem to appreciate the irony of criticizing people on those counts. The best revenge you can have on them is graduate with a good mark in a real subject and have a hot wife you fuck every day, nice kids, a nice car, a nice house, and don't give a shit about them. Because the left wants you, the progressive left wants to make you as miserable as they are. They want to make you as unsuccessful and as mediocre as they are. And if you find yourself on the other side of the line, if you find yourself questioning the tenets of social justice or feminism or Black Lives Matter, it's probably because you've got something going for you. It's probably because you've got a brain. It's probably because you can achieve or accomplish something in your life. And rather than looking out onto the world and thinking, who can I blame for my problems, rather than bettering myself, rather than getting into the gym, getting a good degree, doing the hard work it takes to earn the things that I think I deserve, you look for someone to blame, whether it's the patriarchy or white people or whatever it is. That's what losers do. That's what the terminally mediocre do. That's what people do when they don't have the gumption and the fight in them. They don't have the determination, the intelligence, or the will to succeed. Your best possible response to their odious bullying, and it is a shame that our culture has elevated these people into positions of authority as it has. Your best response to them is to turn the other cheek as a good Christian and live well. Thank you.
You're holding it for me.
Hello.
Being a fat, ugly dyke, mostly dyke, I am teaching psychology of gender this summer. And number one, will you be a guest speaker?
So you don't care about your future earnings, got it?
Exactly. Well, I'm a dyke, so I don't really care about how I look or what I eat or anything either. But anyway, number one, will you be a guest speaker?
I would have laughed if you'd slowed down so I could hear you.
Thank you. I know, I talk really fast. My students tell me that too.
It's from all that gobbling.
Will you be a guest speaker for me?
Sorry?
Will you be a guest speaker
A guest
for me?
speaker for you?
Mhm.
For what subject? For when?
Psychology of gender. It's gender, it's all gender. It's not just women.
I'd be very happy to. Yeah, sure. We can
Thank
come and
you.
speak
That'd be
afterwards, of
awesome.
course.
Even if we have to Skype you in or something.
Say again?
And then my second question was, I already know that I should be populating my material with factual feminist and whiteboard material. What is the single assignment that I could give my students that will really challenge them in terms of their thinking around gender, and what, basically, the assignment that you would give a student if you were designing a gender course?
Oh, yeah. The assignment I would give them is debunk the 5 most heinous feminist myths and see what they come up with. Most of them the first 2 will be obvious. After that, let's see what they come up with. Because the majority of what is taught in gender studies courses and women's studies courses is awful rot. But for my own personal edification, I would ask them to debunk 5 feminist myths and see what they come back with. You may discover some students horrified by the mere suggestion of the assignment. How dare you suggest that anything a feminist ever says might not be entirely accurate? Oh, that will tell its own story. So that's the assignment I would set. All right, thanks very much. Thank you. You'll be happier with a boyfriend, darling. You would. Yeah, I know, but because, look, on a serious point, there aren't really any lesbians. I'm not attacking you, so you seem lovely, but this is something that people don't really understand about sexuality. You know, men have been exclusively sleeping with men for the majority of their lives since 2000 BC. Juvenal and Tacitus are very clear on this. Female sexuality, as we know from all studies that have ever been conducted on this subject, is much more malleable, it's much more flexible. Women who sleep with women tend to have had relationships with men as well. So the old jokes about just needing a good dicking or she's just come out of a bad relationship do tend to be broadly accurate. There is a reason why things become cliches, because they're mostly true. I don't entirely believe in lesbians. There are, of course, a tiny proportion of, the dungaree-wearing types, with the short haircuts, your gender studies professors, who probably will never see a penis. More out of lack of options than preference, but... Well, this is this thing about asexuality. I'm asexual. No, nobody wants to fuck you. Good Lord. No, I mean... For most women, lesbianism is a sort of reaction, it's a response. And this research is not done very often because it's so politically incorrect. But broadly speaking, I just don't really believe in lesbians. And certainly the lesbian domestic violence epidemic, which is something you don't hear very much about, but which is a huge problem that affects lesbian households. The lesbian obesity crisis, which last year the federal government had to spend $3 million investigating to try to work out why dykes are all so fat. It's money that could have gone to, I don't know, pride floats for us or something. You really want to waste money on LGBTQIA, PRS, ampersand, exclamation mark. They just buy me more Gucci. Don't waste money on working out why they can't stop eating. This is why we hate each other. And what was the other one? There's something else. It's the obesity crisis. There's... bed death is its own issue. There's something else as well. Domestic violence, obesity crisis. And earnings as well. There's reason to suppose, depending on how you do the numbers, if you do by household, lesbians earn about the same as everybody else, but if you do it by individuals, they earn way less. So if you're a woman and you decide to pick a lesbian lifestyle, you're much more likely to get hit, get incarcerated, get fat, and get poor. And you're probably going to be really unhappy, so don't do it.
Last question here.
Okay, I want to know which thinkers were most influential on your ideas on politics and philosophy. And
which what?
Which thinkers were the most influential on your ideas in politics and philosophy, and who would you recommend people read to educate themselves?
Okay, I have a very spotty education, as you've heard. My education was on my back in nightclubs in the late 90s. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I was on my front. Obviously. I think if you want to dig into really serious philosophy, I think you could do worse than Schopenhauer and Nietzsche, who have very interesting things to say about the philosophy of knowledge, and they're the philosophers I find more interesting because they're the philosophers who are closer to literature, so you'll enjoy reading them rather than it being sort of Hegel or Kant, like pulling nails. They can tell you something interesting about the world around you. Also, Schopenhauer has some interesting essays on women, which even I can't repeat on stage. If you want to read some interesting, more contemporary thinkers, the field is thin, frankly, because you don't get book deals and you don't get newspaper columns telling the truth anymore. But I would encourage you to read the aforementioned Christopher Hitchens, who's probably the best example of at least in the last 50 years, of why America still needs Britain. I think you should read Gore Vidal. I think you should read William F. Buckley. I think you should read The Art of the Deal. You could do worse than The Art of the Deal. Crippled America. Yeah, we'll round up with Daddy. Actually, interestingly, whose is that? Come up here. Come up here. Come and stand here. Whose was it? I'm not allowed to have a go at them. All right, okay, fine. Thank you for doing a lovely job. I think we're done. Thank you very much. I've had a lovely time. Thank you so much. Thank you. If you you're welcome. If you want to come and say hello, which people sometimes do, I'll be over here. Thank. Oh, we do. Oh, fine. Well, in that case, I'm going to instead lead you like the Pied Piper of Hamelin, in a slightly better outfit, and I think we're going to follow him. If you want to come say hi. So don't go there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys very much for coming. Thank you all for being very respectful. We really appreciate that. UCSB has been one of the most respectful campuses for these kinds of events, and we really, really appreciate them from all of you. Give yourself a round of applause. Thank you. Say thank you to the security guards, to everybody who helped put this event on, your school, and thank you all for coming. Please leave the room in an orderly fashion. All right. Guys, we gotta take it out.